It's January 24th, 1943. Wewak Harbor, New Guinea. Commander Dudley "Mush" Morton is taking USS Wahoo directly into a Japanese anchorage, surfaced in broad daylight at flank speed. His executive officer, Lieutenant Dick O'Kane, is in the conning tower calling out targets. 4 Japanese destroyers are anchored 2,000 yards ahead. Every submarine doctrine manual says this is suicide. You don't charge into harbors. You don't attack on the surface in daylight. You sure as hell don't pick fights with destroyers when you're in a submarine. Morton doesn't care. He's been in command of Wahoo for exactly 6 weeks, and he's already rewriting the rulebook. Battle stations, surface, all ahead flank. The diesel engines roar. Wahoo surges forward at 20 knots, bow cutting through the harbor entrance. O'Kane is feeding him firing solutions. Morton is grinning. This isn't reconnaissance. This isn't cautious periscope depth stalking. This is hunting. What makes this moment significant isn't just the audacity. It's that Morton is doing what every other submarine commander in the Pacific has been told is impossible. And in the next 72 hours, Wahoo is going to sink 9 Japanese ships in this single patrol. 9. Most American submarines in the Pacific haven't sunk 9 ships in a year. Here's the context that makes Morton's approach revolutionary. American submarines in the Pacific are failing. Not because of the boats. The Gato-class submarines are excellent machines. Not because of the crews. American submariners are well-trained and motivated. The problem is doctrine. The problem is caution. The problem is that in the first year of the Pacific War, American submarines have been operating like they're terrified of getting caught. The pre-war submarine doctrine was built around the concept of fleet submarines, boats that would scout ahead of the battleship fleet, report enemy positions, and maybe take some opportunistic shots with torpedoes. But there is no battleship fleet anymore. Pearl Harbor saw to that. The war the Navy trained for doesn't exist. And submarine commanders are still following peacetime rules in a total war. By December 1942, when Morton takes command of Wahoo, the statistics are grim. American submarines have fired thousands of torpedoes. They've achieved pathetically few sinks. Commanders are making cautious attacks from long range, 3,000 yards, 4,000 yards, sometimes 5,000 yards. They're firing spreads of torpedoes and hoping something hits. They're diving deep at the first sign of trouble and running silent, waiting for the enemy to go away. It's not working. Japanese merchant ships are sailing through the Pacific with minimal losses. The Japanese supply lines to their conquered territories remain intact. The submarine force, America's only offensive weapon in the Pacific during those dark early months, is underperforming so badly that some Navy brass are questioning whether submarines are worth the investment. Then Dudley Walker Morton shows up. Born in Owensboro, Kentucky. Naval Academy class of 1930. Previously executive officer on USS R5 and USS Dolphin. When he takes command of Wahoo at the submarine base in Brisbane, Australia, in December 1942, he's 36 years old. He's got a reputation as aggressive, maybe too aggressive. He's been passed over for command multiple times because senior officers think he's reckless. Those senior officers are about to be proven spectacularly wrong. Hey, real quick before we go further, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? And what time is it where you are? I always love seeing how global this audience is. All right, let's keep going. The problem with American submarine warfare in 1942 isn't just tactical. It's technical, cultural, and mathematical. Start with the torpedoes. The Mark 14 torpedo, standard issue on every American submarine, is fundamentally broken. 3 separate defects. The magnetic exploder detonates prematurely or not at all. The contact exploder fails when the torpedo hits at the correct 90-degree angle, and the torpedoes run 10 feet deeper than their set depth. American submarine commanders don't know this yet. The Bureau of Ordnance insists the Mark 14 is perfect. So when commanders fire spreads of torpedoes and watch them pass harmlessly under Japanese ships, or explode prematurely, or smack into hulls and fail to detonate, they blame themselves. They blame their crews. They write after-action reports describing probable hits when they achieved exactly nothing. USS Trigger, October 1942, fires 15 torpedoes at Japanese ships in 3 separate attacks. 0 sinks. Commander Roy Benson reports multiple hits. Post-war Japanese records show none of those ships were even damaged. USS Trout fires 11 torpedoes at a Japanese convoy in November 1942. 1 hit that fails to explode. The rest miss. USS Thresher fires 4 torpedoes at the Japanese carrier Shokaku in March 1942. Perfect setup, range 1,800 yards, 90-degree angle, and all 4 torpedoes malfunction. The numbers tell the story. Between December 1941 and December 1942, American submarines in the Pacific fire approximately 1,400 torpedoes. They sink roughly 180 Japanese ships. That's a hit rate of 12.8%. 1 in 8 torpedoes achieves anything. And remember, submarines typically fire spreads of 3 to 6 torpedoes per attack. The math is brutal, but the torpedo problem is only part of it. The bigger issue is how American submarines are attacking. Conservative, cautious, timid. Commanders approach convoys, fire torpedoes from maximum range, then immediately dive deep and run away. They're treating every attack like it might be their last. And to be fair, there's a reason for that fear. Japanese anti-submarine warfare is devastating. Escort destroyers carry Type 95 depth charges, 800 pounds of explosives that can crush a submarine's pressure hull if they detonate within 20 feet. Japanese sonar operators are skilled. Japanese destroyer captains are aggressive. And Japanese doctrine is to hunt submarines relentlessly. If you give away your position with a torpedo attack, you're going to deal with hours of depth charging. Between December 1941 and December 1942, the Pacific Submarine Force loses 7 boats with all hands. USS Sealion, destroyed at Cavite in the Philippines during a Japanese air raid. USS S-36, grounded and abandoned off the Philippines. USS S-26, rammed by USS Sturgeon in a friendly fire incident. USS Shark, depth-charged southeast of Manado. USS Perch, scuttled after sustaining damage from depth charges. USS Grunion, lost with all hands off Kiska, cause unknown. USS Amberjack, depth-charged off New Britain. That's 52 officers and 470 enlisted men. Dead. For minimal results. The cultural problem runs deeper. Pre-war submarine training emphasized caution. Preserve the boat. Avoid unnecessary risk. Don't press attacks if the situation looks dangerous. The peacetime Navy court-martialed officers who damaged government property through reckless action. That mentality doesn't flip overnight just because the war starts. So submarine commanders play it safe. They make cautious approaches. They fire from long range. They break off attacks early. And the Japanese merchant fleet keeps sailing, keeps supplying forward bases, keeps feeding the Japanese war machine. Admiral Charles Lockwood, Commander Submarine Force Pacific, knows this. He's reading the patrol reports. He's seeing the pattern. American submarines are technologically capable of dominating the Pacific. They're just not doing it. He needs commanders who will take the fight to the enemy. Commanders who understand that sinking ships matters more than bringing the boat home undamaged. He needs someone like Dudley Morton. He just doesn't know it yet. Morton takes command of Wahoo on December 31, 1942. His first move is unconventional. He switches positions with his executive officer. In every other submarine in the Pacific Fleet, the captain operates from the conning tower during attacks, looking through the periscope, calling the shots. The executive officer is down in the control room managing the boat. Morton flips it. He puts Lieutenant Richard Dick O'Kane at the periscope. O'Kane will handle target tracking, range estimation, firing solutions. Morton will stay in the control room, maneuvering the entire submarine based on O'Kane's information. Why? Because Morton understands something other commanders don't. One man looking through a periscope can only see one target at a time. One man has tunnel vision. Morton wants the bigger picture. He wants to manage the attack like a surface engagement, moving Wahoo aggressively, setting up multiple shots, pressing the fight. O'Kane is perfect for the role. Naval Academy class of 1934. Previously an instructor at the Naval Academy and on diesel submarine training. He's got exceptional visual tracking ability and ice-cold nerves. The partnership works because both men share the same philosophy. Aggressive, close-range attacks. Get inside 1,500 yards. Get inside 1,000 yards if possible. Make every torpedo count. Wahoo's third war patrol, Morton's first as captain, launches from Brisbane on January 16, 1943. The assigned patrol area is the shipping lanes around New Guinea, standard patrol. Nothing special, except Morton isn't planning a standard patrol. January 24th. Wewak Harbor. That's where we started this story. Morton takes Wahoo surfaced into the harbor in broad daylight. Japanese destroyers anchored inside. O'Kane at the periscope feeding bearings. Morton ordering speed changes, managing the boat's position. They fire torpedoes at 1,200 yards. One destroyer, Harusame, takes a hit and starts listing. They evade, circle around, press another attack. A transport goes down, then a tanker. But the signature moment of the patrol happens 2 days later. January 26th. Wahoo encounters a Japanese convoy, 1 transport and 2 escorts. Morton doesn't make a cautious approach and fire from distance. He surfaces, in daylight. He uses Wahoo's deck gun, a 4-inch .50 caliber gun, to engage the transport at 6,000 yards while closing the range. The escorts react, trying to screen the transport. Morton dives, fires torpedoes, surfaces again, fires the deck gun, dives, repositions. This goes on for hours. It's a running gunfight. Wahoo fires a total of 9 torpedoes during the engagement, scoring multiple hits. The transport Buyo Maru, carrying 1,126 Japanese troops from the 20th Division, takes 3 torpedo hits and sinks stern first. The survivors are in the water, clinging to debris. Here's where it gets dark. Morton surfaces Wahoo among the survivors. There are over 1,000 Japanese soldiers in the water. Morton orders his deck gun crew to open fire. They're shooting at survivors. The reason, according to Morton's patrol report and later testimony, the Japanese soldiers were firing rifles at Wahoo from the water. Some survivors were swimming toward the submarine with apparent hostile intent. Morton's decision: eliminate the threat. This moment becomes controversial later, but in January 1943, Morton's report describes it as combat action. Wahoo's crew fires the deck gun and uses Wahoo's hull to ram swimmers. Eventually, Morton breaks off and clears the area. The patrol continues. By the time Wahoo returns to Pearl Harbor on February 7, 1943, Morton reports sinking 9 ships totaling 32,000 tons. The actual number, verified post-war, is closer to 4 ships confirmed sunk, roughly 13,000 tons. Morton overclaimed, like most submarine commanders. But even the conservative numbers represent a dramatic success compared to typical patrol results. Admiral Lockwood reads Morton's patrol report and realizes what he's got: a commander who fights. The Navy awards Morton the Navy Cross. Wahoo's crew gets a hero's welcome. And suddenly, every submarine commander in the Pacific is studying Morton's tactics. Wahoo's 4th War Patrol launches from Pearl Harbor on March 23, 1943. Patrol area: the Yellow Sea between China and Korea. Deep in Japanese-controlled waters. High risk, high reward. Morton and O'Kane have refined their system. They're hunting like a pack predator, not hiding like prey. March 19th through March 29th, Wahoo tears through Japanese shipping. The freighter Buyo Maru, 1,228 tons, sunk with 2 torpedoes off the Korean coast. The cargo ship Buyo Maru, 2,556 tons, hit with 3 torpedoes, goes down in 4 minutes. The transport Maru, 6,440 tons, torpedoed at 900 yards. Morton closed to less than half a mile for the shot. The tanker Satsuki Maru No. 1, 1,115 tons, hit at dawn. The freighter Yamabiko Maru, 6,783 tons, sunk after a surface gun action. Morton's tactics are consistent. Get close, press the attack, don't break off. When he encounters convoys, he doesn't fire a spread and run. He fires, repositions, fires again. He uses Wahoo's speed on the surface to chase down targets. He uses the deck gun when torpedoes are scarce. And he absolutely refuses to give the enemy time to react. One attack defines his philosophy. March 25th, Wahoo spots a 3-ship convoy with 1 escort. Standard submarine doctrine: fire at the largest target, then dive and evade the escort. Morton fires at all 3 cargo ships. He sinks 2, Kachyosan Maru and Kokusei Maru, then surfaces and engages the escort with the deck gun while reloading torpedo tubes. The escort breaks off. Morton chases down the 3rd cargo ship and sinks it with deck gun fire because he's out of torpedoes. By the time Wahoo returns to Midway on April 17th, Morton reports sinking 20 ships totaling approximately 60,000 tons. Post-war verification reduces that to 9 ships confirmed, roughly 20,000 tons. But even the conservative number makes this the most successful American submarine patrol to date. The 5th patrol is equally aggressive. Wahoo departs Midway on April 24, 1943, heading back to the Yellow Sea. May 5th through May 14th, another killing spree. The cargo vessel Taman Maru No. 5, 2,260 tons. The tanker Jinmu Maru, 1,913 tons. The transport Takao Maru, 3,204 tons, hit at 1,400 yards and sinking within 3 minutes. The freighter Sagami Maru, 7,198 tons, Wahoo's largest single kill, torpedoed and sunk off the coast of Korea. Morton is operating with what submariners call command aggression. When he finds targets, he attacks immediately. When he encounters escorts, he fights through them instead of running. When torpedoes malfunction, and they still malfunction regularly, he surfaces and uses the deck gun. The crew feeds off his energy. They're loading torpedoes faster, tracking targets better, executing maneuvers with precision. Between January and August 1943, Wahoo completes 5 war patrols under Morton's command. Confirmed sinkings: 19 ships totaling approximately 55,000 tons. Morton's claims are higher. He reports 27 ships, but even the verified numbers make Wahoo the most lethal American submarine in the Pacific. No other boat comes close. Admiral Lockwood uses Wahoo as the model for what aggressive submarine warfare should look like. Morton's tactics become required study material. Other commanders start closing ranges, pressing attacks, using surface speed to chase targets. The entire submarine doctrine shifts. The timid, cautious approach of 1942 gives way to the hunter-killer mentality of 1943. But Morton isn't done. He's got one more patrol planned: the Sea of Japan. Nobody's penetrated that deep into Japanese home waters. It's a death trap. Shallow waters, heavy patrols, minefields at every strait. Morton volunteers. Wahoo will go in first. Wahoo's 6th War Patrol begins on September 9th, 1943. Departure point: Pearl Harbor. Destination: La Perouse Strait, the narrow passage between Hokkaido and Sakhalin Island, leading into the Sea of Japan. The plan is audacious even by Morton's standards. Penetrate the strait submerged, operate inside the Sea of Japan for 3 weeks, sink everything in sight, extract through the same choke point. Dick O'Kane doesn't go on this patrol. He's been promoted, assigned to command his own boat, USS Tang. Morton's new executive officer is Lieutenant Vern Skjonsby. The crew is largely the same men who made Wahoo legendary. They know what they're getting into. The Sea of Japan is Japanese home waters, heavy patrol activity, sophisticated anti-submarine measures, minefields. But if anyone can pull this off, it's Morton. Wahoo transits north through the Pacific. September 20th, Morton sends a radio message confirming entry through La Perouse Strait. He reports encountering a large convoy and engaging targets. That's the last confirmed communication from Wahoo. October 11th, 1943. Japanese records later reveal what happened. A Japanese patrol aircraft, call sign Yokosuka K5Y1, spots a submarine surfacing in La Perouse Strait. The submarine is Wahoo, attempting to exit the Sea of Japan after completing her patrol. The aircraft drops depth charges. Wahoo is damaged but still operational. She dives. 3 Japanese escorts converge on the position: destroyer Kasumi, patrol boat CH-5, and submarine chaser CHI-8. They conduct a coordinated depth charge attack. Multiple depth charges detonate directly over Wahoo's position. The escorts report debris, oil, and air bubbles rising to the surface. Wahoo is gone. All hands lost, 80 men. Commander Dudley Walker Morton, Executive Officer Vern Skjonsby, 7 other officers, 70 enlisted sailors. The submarine that revolutionized Pacific warfare is at the bottom of La Perouse Strait in 200 feet of water. The Navy doesn't know immediately. Wahoo is listed as overdue in November 1943. By December, she's presumed lost. The official declaration, USS Wahoo, lost during patrol, cause unknown. It's not until after the war, when American intelligence officers examine Japanese records, that the full story emerges. Morton's death doesn't diminish his impact, it amplifies it. He proved that aggressive tactics work. He demonstrated that submarines should hunt, not hide. The commanders who studied his methods, Dick O'Kane on Tang, Gene Fluckey on Barb, Sam Dealey on Harder, go on to become the top submarine aces of World War II. They all credit Morton's example. By war's end, American submarines sink 1,314 Japanese ships totaling 5.3 million tons. That's 55% of all Japanese merchant shipping losses. Submarines also sink 1 battleship, 8 aircraft carriers, and 11 cruisers. The Japanese economy collapses under the blockade. Their military can't sustain operations without supplies. The submarine campaign Morton helped pioneer becomes one of America's decisive strategic advantages in the Pacific. The legacy extends beyond World War II. Modern submarine doctrine, aggressive positioning, close-range attacks, bold command decisions traces directly to Morton's example. The U.S. Navy's submarine force still teaches his tactics. His partnership with O'Kane established the commander-executive officer dynamic that remains standard today. In 1989, oceanographer Dr. Paul Tidwell located Wahoo's wreck in La Perouse Strait using side-scan sonar. The submarine lies intact, resting on the bottom, bow pointed toward home. Morton and his crew are still aboard, still on patrol, still representing everything the silent service aspired to become. Dudley "Mush" Morton proved that submarines aren't defensive weapons, they're hunters, and in the hands of a commander willing to take the fight to the enemy, they're absolutely lethal.